There's something strange that happens the moment a room goes completely quiet. Your heart rate changes, your brain shifts, and suddenly, you feel this weird urge to say something. Anything, just to fill the space. Why? Why does silence, which is literally nothing, feel like something? You know the moment. You're in a car with someone. The music stops. The conversation pauses. 3 seconds of quiet. 5 seconds. And it starts to feel heavy. Like something is wrong. Like someone needs to talk. Like you need to talk. So you say something random. About the weather, about the road, about nothing. Or think about a dinner table. Someone asks a question. Nobody answers right away. Just a few seconds of silence. And the person who asked starts to laugh nervously, or repeat the question, or wave it off. Or a work meeting. Someone finishes talking. There's a pause before the next person speaks. And almost every time, someone jumps in too fast, talking over the silence before it even had a chance to exist. We do this constantly. We paper over silence like it's a crack in the wall. But here's the thing. The silence was never the problem. Let's talk about what your brain is actually doing when silence appears. Your nervous system is wired for signal detection. Since the very beginning of human history, silence was information. When the forest went quiet, the animals stopped moving, the birds stopped singing. It meant one thing: something is coming. Silence was a warning, a pause before danger. So your brain learned, across thousands of years, to treat silence as a gap in the signal. Something is missing. Something should be here. Fill it, or figure out what's wrong. That old wiring doesn't just disappear because you're now sitting in a coffee shop. Your brain still runs that ancient check. Silence equals sign, absence of information equals sign, possible threat. That's why silence feels like pressure. Not metaphorically, literally. Your nervous system is scanning. But here's where it gets more interesting. In modern life, we've added a new layer on top of that ancient response. We've given silence a social meaning. Silence between two people doesn't just mean no noise. It means no signal. And no signal in a social context means uncertainty. Is this person bored? Did I say something wrong? Are they upset? Do they not like me? Your brain starts generating interpretations, and those interpretations feel real, even though the silence itself told you nothing. This is called ambiguity aversion. The brain would rather have a wrong answer than no answer, so it invents one. And that invented answer is almost always negative, because the brain runs on a negativity bias. When there's nothing clear to interpret, it defaults to, something might be bad, so you jump in and fill the silence. Not because you have something to say, but because you're trying to end the uncertainty. You're not filling the silence. You're escaping the discomfort of not knowing. But there's an even deeper layer here that most people never think about. Silence doesn't just create uncertainty about the other person. It creates uncertainty about yourself. When everything around you goes quiet, no phone, no music, no conversation, you suddenly have to sit with your own thoughts. And a lot of people find that genuinely difficult. Not because their thoughts are terrible, but because they're unfiltered. The noise around us acts like a buffer. It gives the mind somewhere to go, something external to process. But in silence, the mind turns inward. And for many people, that inward space feels unfamiliar, like entering a room you haven't cleaned in a long time. There's unfinished thinking in there, emotions that haven't been named, questions without answers. Silence forces a confrontation with what's actually happening inside you. And if you've been running from that, even unconsciously, then silence feels like a trap. This is why some people cannot sleep without background noise. It's not about the sound. It's about avoiding the quiet that comes when the sound stops. It's also why boredom feels so unbearable for many people now. Boredom is basically enforced silence for the mind, and we reach for our phones the instant it shows up. We've built an entire civilization of noise, and that noise serves a very specific psychological function. It keeps us away from ourselves. Here's something worth thinking about. Not all cultures feel the same discomfort with silence. In some cultures, parts of Scandinavia, Japan, Finland. Silence in a conversation is a sign of respect. It means, I'm taking what you said seriously. I'm thinking before I respond. In those cultures, rushing to fill silence is considered rude. It signals that you weren't really listening. But in many Western cultures, and increasingly in digital culture globally, silence in a conversation is interpreted as awkwardness, a failure, a gap that needs to be fixed. We've been trained this way. Think about every movie, every TV show, every podcast. The silence has been edited out. Everything moves quickly, smoothly, without pause. Even in music, the space between notes is almost always filled. We consume media that's been stripped of silence, and then we bring that expectation into real life. We expect conversations to flow like edited audio. No gaps, no pauses, no breathing room. And when they don't, when a real, unedited, human pause appears, it feels like something broke, but nothing broke. That's just what real life sounds like. Here's the part that changes how you see this. The discomfort you feel in silence? It's not the silence talking. It's you. Everything that feels urgent in those quiet moments, the need to explain yourself, the worry that the other person is judging you, the anxiety that something is wrong, none of that is coming from outside. It's coming from your own mind, filling a blank space with its default patterns. Silence is like a mirror. What you feel in it tells you a lot about what's going on underneath. If silence makes you anxious, it might be worth asking, what am I afraid of finding if I stop moving? What's underneath all this noise I keep around myself? And here's the strange part. The people who learn to sit with silence, who stop fighting it, often describe it as one of the most freeing experiences they've ever had. Not because silence gave them answers, but because they stopped needing the noise to protect them from the questions. The next time silence shows up, in a room, in a conversation, in a moment alone, notice what you do. Notice the pull to reach for your phone, or to say something, or to turn the music on. And maybe, just for a second, don't. Just sit in it. Because the silence was never the problem. It was just showing you something you weren't ready to look at.